WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station.
That's us. Welcome back, folks. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. 215-204-9449 is the number if you want to call and hang with us. It's opening day, baby. Philly's in action tonight going up against the Atlanta Braves. The Mets are also in action today. San Diego Padres, Yankees as well. And now we will be joined by a man who works in New York for WFAN and the CBS Sports Network. But we're not here to talk baseball with him. We will talk some Syracuse basketball as he is Mr. Syracuse, and that's John Jastremski. John, it's Zach Gelb, Chase Sr., and Haley Condon. How are you?
Hey, guys, it's a good weekend to be wearing these Syracuse orange. Let me tell you, man, I'm still smiling ear to ear after this weekend.
See, but you know what? I'm smiling even more, and here's why. I know the Temple Owls did lose, but we did beat you this year, and I will also say this. The ratings came out for the radio station the other day, and Temple University defeated your orange.
Is that right? Well, congratulations to you guys on both fronts. I mean, good job with the station, obviously. That's very good stuff there. And then, of course, look at that game in December, and I still can't believe Michael Carter-Williams is missing free throw after free throw. But let's be honest, if Temple had somebody else besides Khalif White who could put the ball in the bucket, you guys go out there and beat Indiana.
It would have been an excellent
sure.
rematch, and I actually think you guys would have edged us out in the rematch because Temple did play an incredible game that day when we played you in December. But as you said, Michael Carter-Williams has been unbelievable. But 2 out of the 4 Big East teams are in the Final Four in the last year as the real Big East. It's a little bit odd seeing this being the last year of the real Big East, though, John.
Yeah, it was very depressing, guys, when I was at Madison Square Garden. I mean, it's an event I've always enjoyed year in and year out. It was just a very surreal feeling realizing that the Big East tournament as we know it is going to be totally different next year. And how funny is it that we could possibly have a championship rematch of the game we saw Saturday night at MSG when Syracuse really played Louisville as well as anyone has in their winning streak when they over the 13-point lead going into the locker room. But you just know the press for Louisville is so relentless with Steve with Russ Smith. Now, it's going to be a different dimension without Kevin Ware being there because they're not going to have that depth at the guard spot. And I would give Syracuse a puncher's chance in the game. I think out of the teams remaining in this NCAA tournament, Louisville's without a doubt the favorite to win the national championship to cut down the net. But if I had to give you a team that is best equipped to beat the Louisville Cardinals, it'd be Syracuse.
Chase Sr. here. Syracuse started the season 10-0 before that loss to Temple, and for a stretch in February and going into March, they tripped up a little bit. Heading into the Big East tournament at MSG, a lot of people had written this Syracuse team off, but they advanced to the Big East championship before losing to Louisville, and they're on a roll right now, playing their best basketball. And this isn't even Jim Boeheim's best team that he's taken to the Final Four. But what has changed from February until now that has this team in the Final Four?
Well, I think it's real simple. They're hitting some shots. I mean, they looked offensively challenged in that bad stretch in February. Now, granted, they played some pretty good teams along the way. Georgetown twice, had Marquette, who's been very good at home, playing Louisville. So that was a very difficult stretch for Syracuse. But you're 100% right. Number one, Boeheim's gotten the most out of this team, mainly because the 2-3 zone has just been absolutely off the charts. Number two, the guards are playing much better offensively. Carter-Williams is getting to the bucket. He's being able to penetrate. Brandon Trish and James Sutherland are knocking down some shots. And it's funny, if you would have told me, I went down to that Syracuse-Georgetown game at the Verizon Center in D.C., and after leaving that building, getting on the Amtrak to go back to do a show in New York, you would have told me getting off that Amtrak at around 7 o'clock that night that Syracuse would have cut down the nets in the same building a couple of weeks later. I'll be honest, guys, I probably would have looked at you like you had about 3 or 4 heads, and I would have said, all right, then.
You'd probably look at me that way anyway, regardless of the conversation.
Yeah, let's be honest, that's probably the case anyway, Zach. But I still cannot fathom that this team is playing for the Final Four. They got an easy draw in the tournament. They were able to take advantage. And it's funny, this is not as talented a Syracuse team as the one that was the 1 seed, I'd say, last year. There's nobody on this team as good as Deion Waiters. A couple of years ago, they were 1 seed. They lost to Butler on a Walker goes down. So it shows you how sometimes when you're a lower seed in the NCAA tournament, you catch a little lightning in a bottle, you can make a big run.
John Jastremski joins us from WFAN and the CBS Sports Network up there in New York. And, John, you mentioned it. This 2-3 zone has been unstoppable. It's been very tough to break so far in the NCAA tournament. I would have to imagine the way to beat it is Michigan's just going to have to shoot the lights out of the building coming up this weekend.
Yeah, and they're clearly capable of doing so. And that's what makes this matchup coming up on Saturday in Atlanta, I think, so interesting, because Syracuse is clearly the much better defensive team. Michigan is clearly the much better offensive team. So, to me, the game is going to come down to that matchup. It's like one of those talent matchups with a big-time quarterback going up against a big-time defense. But I think this size of Syracuse will be able to frustrate some of the smaller guards from Michigan, specifically Trey Burke, who's been lights out in this tournament. But I think Syracuse is going to be able to exploit Michigan on the offensive end, where if you look at that Indiana game, the Syracuse guards were just faster, quicker, stronger than Indiana's. And look for Carter Williams and Brandon Trish to try and post up some of these smaller players. I think it'll be a good little strategy for Syracuse here on Saturday.
This Syracuse team has faced a lot of adversity through the course of the season. Fab Melo doesn't come back. He goes to the NBA and plays with the Celtics. Sutherland for a little bit was suspended for a while in the middle of the season. But Boeheim has done a remarkable job, and he continues to have his team in the dance each and every year. He got that championship back with McNamara and Melo back in 2003. But how much longer do you think Boeheim could be coaching on the sidelines for the Orange? He's only getting older.
It's a great question. It's a great point. I mean, if they end up winning it all this year, would it shock me if Jim Boeheim decided he had had enough and he's going to walk into the sunset and he doesn't want to exactly have the same ending as Jim Calhoun? That would not surprise me at all. But as far as I know, guys, Jim Boeheim enjoys coaching. I think he's looking forward to going to the ACC, going up against Jastremski, going up against Roy Williams. You got his old buddy in Patino following along. So Syracuse is in a real good spot right now. I don't know how many more years Boeheim wants to do this. I think it's a pretty much open-ended invitation. If he wants to keep coaching, they will let him. They're not going to force him out the door. The guy obviously knows what he's doing. If you ask me, though, if they win it all, I'd say he walks away.
John, Syracuse has a bunch of great players, and obviously you need an arsenal of talent to make it to the Final Four. But a guy like James Sutherland does so much for this team on the offensive side of the rock when he's able to knock down outside shots because he spreads the offense and gives and opens up a lot of opportunities for other guys. Can you just talk about his presence and how important Sutherland is to the Syracuse team when he's hitting shots?
Oh, no question about it, because what he's able to do is just stretch the floor. He makes Carter Williams better. He makes Brandon Trish better. And you saw what he was able to do firsthand in that NCAA tournament, or in the Big East tournament, I should say, at Madison Square Garden, when he was taking shots from Guam and they were going in. I mean, you were just marveled with some of the shots James Sutherland was hitting. And he's got the NBA body type. He's probably looking to be, I would say, an early second-round pick. But then again, guys, you watch Steve Novak play in the NBA. And if Steve Novak can play in the NBA, I find it hard-pressed that James Sutherland wouldn't get an opportunity somewhere because of his, 6'8" body structure and the ability to knock down three-point shot. But he's really important for the Syracuse team because, as I said earlier, they are not exactly an offensive powerhouse. They usually are going to struggle if they don't get a lot out of their guards and if Sutherland's not going out there hitting out that shot.
Have you ever been to Guam, by the way?
No, I have not. Guam is not in my vocabulary. I've never been. I'm looking for the exotic vacation, though. So maybe in the near-distant future, maybe I'll look into it. You never know.
Let's get to the other side of the bracket. And Louisville, watching them beat Duke yesterday, it was good to see them get that victory. But at the same time, that Kevin Ware injury, it ranks up there with Theismann and LeGrand. And that was real horrific to see. And it was a somber mood on the bench. You saw people crying. The whole stadium was just in complete and utter awe. But watching that yesterday, that was real scary there, John.
Yeah, guys. I mean, I saw the replay, I think, once on Sunday watching
and it was
game,
enough.
And that was enough. Like, I didn't need to see the still shots. I didn't need to see CBS or ESPN. And to their credit, CBS, I believe, showed the replay once. Nance handled it really well, and that was that. I mean, it was one of the worst injuries you'll ever see. It was an awkward injury. You feel for the kid. It's going to be a long road for recovery. But they're saying it's very similar to the injury that Michael Bush had with Louisville. And Michael Bush has obviously had a very nice NFL career with the Raiders and the Chicago Bears. And I'll tell you, Ware's presence or lack thereof is going to hurt Louisville, mainly because he is their primary backup guard for when Siva and Smith come out of the game. And you know the way Pitino likes to press and have these guys in the face of some of these other players, you're going to be prone to picking up a few fouls along the way. So if they get into foul trouble, they could really miss Kevin Ware. But that was a brutal injury, guys. Oh, brutal.
John Jastremski joins us on the hotline, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Zach Gelb, Chase Sr., and Haley Condon here with you. And Louisville, they have Wichita State. The Shockers have been shocking everyone this year in the tournament, getting to the Final Four. But do they have a prayer? Do they even have like a 1% chance to go up there and beat Louisville?
No. I mean, I've been picking against Wichita State here. I picked against them after the Gonzaga game. I thought there was a good shot LaSalle was going to win the game. I was dead wrong there. The size from Wichita was too much. Then this game against Ohio State, they were able to kill the Buckeyes on the board. But you saw at the end of that Ohio State game how the pressure of the Buckeyes started to get to Wichita State a little bit. Well, you can intensify that by about 100 times with the pressure you're going to see from the Louisville Cardinals. I think it's a great story for Wichita to get to the Final Four. I think Marshall's done an incredible job, but going up against Louisville, the best team in the tournament, and winning this game, I would be absolutely stunned if they won this game. To me, the other game is a complete coin flip, guys. The Louisville-Wichita State game, I mean, there's a reason why Louisville's a 10-point favorite.
Yeah, anytime a team like Wichita State can make it to the Final Four, you got to give them all the credit in the world. But real quick before we go, if there's 3 keys for a Syracuse win over Michigan, can you give us 3 quick keys?
All right, how about Syracuse putting up more than 60 points in this basketball game? Specifically, they're going to need Trish and Sutherland, because I'm going to assume at this point Carter Williams is getting in a bucket and he's able to do his thing. But they're going to need Trish and Sutherland to go out there and knock down a couple of outside shots. And the other key I would give you is the bigs, Christmas and Keita, have got to stay out of foul trouble going up against Mitch McGarry. And Mitch McGarry's really done a nice job for Michigan in the low post.
He's really turned it on this postseason.
Yeah, no question about it. The one thing I'll say, though, they have been running a ton of pick and roll with McGarry and Burke, and that's not going to fly with the 2-3 zone. The zone is going to take that away.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think when you look at this, the 3-point shooting for Michigan up against the zone is going to determine this game from Michigan's standpoint. If Michigan knocks down 3-point shots consistently, they're going to have an excellent shot at winning the game. If they don't, I think the Orange are playing on Monday night.
Final one here, right before we let John Jastremski go of WFAN up there in New York. Also does a few shows for the CBS Sports Network nationally. It's baseball today. It's actually a little bit weird for me growing up in New York for all these years and going to Mets opening day with the WFAN suite and chilling with all you guys. But I'm not going to do that today because I'm here at Temple University in Philadelphia. Have to see the Phillies play the Braves tonight. But give me the feel up there in New York about the Mets and the Yanks. It doesn't sound all that too confident.
No, Zach, I'll be honest. This is probably the most pessimistic I've ever been or have ever experienced in opening day from both sides of town here. I mean, you look at the Mets, you expect them to be awful. I know you enjoy the experience of being out at opening day each and every year, but let's be honest, this Mets team ain't any good. You get rid of a Cy Young Award winner and R.A. Dickey.
There's a better chance that I go to Guam
than the future's
than the Mets win the World Series this year.
For Wheeler and making the move for Darno, but all in all, I mean, this Mets team in 2013, I mean, it's clearly a year of transition. It's clearly a rebuilding year. And for the Yankees over-under number, guys, is at 84.5. I can't tell you the last time the Yankees over-under number has been under 90 wins. And rightfully so. I mean, the Yankees have a lot of questions, especially in that lineup. They got a lot of power they got to replace. I think their starting pitching will be all right. I think they'll clearly be in the hunt here in the month of September. Whether they make the playoffs or not, I think that is really the flip of a coin, and I have them in my pick sitting there as one of your wild cards. But this is not a vintage Yankee team, but this can change an hour. You go out there and you get off to a good start this year.
How does A-Rod fare this year?
He don't play. I don't think Alex Rodriguez plays a game for the Yankees this year. I just don't. Whether it's recovering from the hip or all of the nonsense off the field, I actually think it would be a little bit of a blessing in disguise if that's the case, too.
Well, John, you were excellent today. Thanks so much. Let's have you on again real soon. We appreciate the time, my friend.
Guys, I enjoyed it. Keep kicking rear end, and I'll talk to you soon, all right?
Sounds good. John Jastremski right there. What we'll do right now is we got the home stretch coming up to wrap things up on Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. We'll do some more college basketball when we get back.